Perfect. So as I told you, please, if you don't see me recording, please tell me, guys, because at the end it's this is what we upload to YouTube, and this is the class. So this week objectives, it's just the course introduction that we just did, but also to give you the scope of this course, which is managerial accounting, and the importance of that topic towards the business related students for you. Okay, we will see the phases of the companies, which is the planning phase, the controlling phase, and the decision making. The importance of managerial accounting, as you will see, is to have internal information that will support the decision making. Some relevant topics for business context and accounting. In there you will see we have sustainability and the focus of managerial accounting. So the focus of managerial accounting, which is internal reports. What is the difference, or who can tell me the difference between financial accounting, which is the purpose of financial accounting is to create the financial statements, and managerial accounting? What's the difference? Why do we have different topics for that? Who can help me?
Financial accounting is more aimed towards external stakeholders, so people looking towards investing in a company. And managerial accounting is directed towards the direction of the company internally.
What would you say, Vanessa, regarding what provides more information? Managerial accounting or financial accounting? What provides more information?
Like it depends on what you want to do, but I think the managerial accounting, if you want to take day-to-day decisions with it, the managerial accounting would provide you with more insights.
That's it. That's it. Managerial accounting is the accounting that we use for decision making in the organizations. It is more detailed than financial statements. Obviously, there's a huge process to create a financial statement. In your companies, you should have financial statements and financial information, which the whole purpose of that is to raise equity or the financing aspect, which is request loans and credits to your suppliers, to the banks, and from investors. Okay, that's the purpose of you presenting an annual report and the financial statements to in a public way. But the managerial accounting, that's something that we don't have access to, at least unless you worked in the firm. It has more data, way more data than the financial statement, because you can incorporate operational data, marketing, from the whole areas, and it provides information to internal users, managers, directors. What's the C-suite? Who can help me with what is the C-suite? The previous course students did not know that. No, anybody?
The chief of executive officers and stuff.
Perfect. Yes. And the focus or the scope is, it has an emphasis on decisions affecting the future. Remember, the part of this course is that you will now be professionals. And if you, the difference between somebody that has great studies and has been interacting with this level of content is that you have, or you should have a preventive approach towards decisions, like towards risk. You don't want to be making, or you don't want to be in a position where you take decisions in order to correct your mistakes. You want to have an approach towards the planning, towards the future, in order to prevent everything from happening and to take the better decisions that will give the most value to your company. So the focus of financial accounting is to provide, as Vanessa told us, information to external users, investors, creditors, and customer suppliers, government agencies, and obviously it involves to have an income statement. Can anybody tell us the statements and what are those? What is an income statement? Just to see we're in the same, watching the same picture.
Is it just an overview of which money comes in from which parties and where the cash flow is coming in?
Well, there's a difference because you have a statement of cash flow.
The profit and loss income.
And what's the difference between profit and loss? Or a cash flow, sorry. Don't worry, we will see it. But yes, the income statement tells you what you're earning or losing in a profitability way. There's a little bit of difference between a cash flow. Cash flows are inflows and outflows of cash. And the balance sheet, what it tells you, the balance sheet. What does it tell you?
What are your assets? What are your liabilities? And what's your equity?
Okay, and what is an asset?
Something that the company has value.
It's the company resources, right? Don't forget about this, is the resources of or the rights to claim something. The rights to claim something or resources. Because what is an account receivable, which is part of your assets? It's the right to claim something. Do you agree? It's the right to claim from my customer the cash he owes me. And I have that right in a contract. So, and the liability and equity aspects are debts. The only difference between the liability debt and the equity debt is that in the equity aspect, you are absorbing the business risk. You want, or you invest in a company because you expect a dividend, or you expect the increase in the price of the stock you are purchasing. That's what you expect. But if the company is not earning and it's losing, you won't get any dividends. And probably the price of the stock will decrease. So the difference between that debt is that liabilities don't absorb that risk, but obviously they earn less than the equity. So if you have a bank loan, you will have to pay it on a monthly basis. Otherwise, something will happen. Probably you will get sued. But if you are an investor and you are losing and you're not getting any dividends, good for you. It's your company. So emphasize decision affecting the past and the present. So financial statements have actual data, something that already passed. So it has an emphasis of seeing or watching the picture that it's behind, okay? This is a comparison of financial and managerial accounting. It's very important to understand the difference between both. So obviously the accounting, it's the recording, estimations, it's the financial operation translated into financial data. At the end, what your accountants are creating, it's a database of your accounting transactions and your bank statement transactions. That is the accounting aspect. So financial accounting, the purpose of financial accounting is to report to those outside the organization. And it has an emphasis what we just saw, no? Emphasize on past data. And it has rules. The financial statements have rules. You must follow guidelines, like in here you will see GAAP or IFRS. So we will see along the way that most of the things that we were gonna watch are under IFRS, which are the International Financial Reporting Standards. There are only few countries that don't follow those standards. In Mexico, if you want to go public, you should or you must have statements under IFRS. If you are a United States company, you will have to use US GAAP. But there are very few countries that doesn't or don't do it on under IFRS. And there's obviously there's a big reason for that, which is not the purpose of the class, but maybe later we can discuss it. So it is mandatory for external reports. What managerial accounting, it's the purpose, it's to report to managers inside the organization to plan, to control, and for decision making. Obviously, it has an emphasis on the future. We will see along obviously if we are trying to watch the future, we will see probability topics. And it doesn't. Perla raised a hand. Please, Perla, tell me.
Yes, teacher, I have a question. When, like, if you're doing this and you know how you have to, like, of course, like, pay the tax or something like that, like, to the government and everything. So, like, my question is, because in Mexico is 16%, but, like, how do, like, when you're doing this, how is it more, is it less? Like, how do you know how much you have? Like, I don't get that.
So you have to plan. I also don't know how. Also, how much? It will depend on the strategy that you're creating towards that payment. But obviously, if you do a good planning phase, as we will see along how to do it, guys, is it okay to have money in tax paradises? I don't know. It's an ethical issue, but at the end, it's legal. Why are not in jail everyone that has an account in tax paradises? Because those strategies are legal. Maybe they are not ethical. I'm not gonna discuss that, but those are legal. So imagine that you can plan ahead, create a tax planning, a tax strategy, so you pay the less taxes that the law allows it. Managerial accounting do not need to follow any GAAP, IFRS. They are more intended to be relevant. Okay. So, planning. planning. Our goal is this is an exercise that we wanted to do. You will see it in the video, but let's see what is a planning phase. And this is one of the most important phases. I don't know if you have a professional experience, Jope and Jana. Do you have any professional experience?
I don't have. I only had the financial management in my university, but that's the only experience I have with finance.
Okay, okay.
Me neither. I don't have any experience about that.
Okay, perfect. Well, when you get to a company level or to your professional career started, as I told you, you want to have a preventive approach towards things. So first thing that you should do is to plan ahead. Actually, one of the exercises that we did last week is to know how do you see yourselves in 5 or 10 years. We will ask you, but not now. But the purpose of that exercise is to start planning ahead. If we can plan for a company, we can plan for you in a personal level, and we will see it, because at the end, if you can create a budget, a master budget, which is the main control tool for organizations, you can create it for you, so you can control your financial health. So first of all, how we will plan, and this is a great exercise. I want, or my goal is to recruit the best and brightest in the college graduates in my company. I own a company called ViajaClick. I always use it for the exercises. So how would you plan? Jope, you are the HR manager, and I tell you, I need to recruit the best college graduates for ViajaClick. What would you do?
Go to the university and see which students have the best grades or do the best at school. And then talk to them? Or is this not what you're aiming for?
No, exactly. That's the exercise that I wanted. There are no correct or wrong answers.
You know, I don't think high grades are said that you are a good financial or managerial accounting if you're good at it. But I think if you're very motivated and you have good grades and you understand what's going on, then I think you have one of the best and brightest college graduates, in my opinion.
You got very hands-on very early. You are the one that, let's go into the action. What I will tell you, stop a little bit in there. You have to request from me a little bit more information, like how much would I spend in a graduate, no?
Okay, yes, yeah.
Because you're competing. Hopefully I'm hoping that there are other persons interested in the best college graduates, and they are betting towards them, no? So you have to give a competitive wage. So you can tell me, like, well, what's the budget for those wages? Well, or what does it mean, best and brightest college students? And how it's gonna be the recruitment process, and what it's gonna be the decisive factor. And these are the type of interaction that you have in a planning phase. You start to covering this type of risk. And how will be the procedure? Do we have to contact which universities?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, do you get the point?
Yes.
The controlling phase. Once we settle the planning phase, and now we have the plan, and you get a hands-on. now that we finish the plan phase, you Jopi went to the university and started recruitment, the interviews. You have a control phase. What is the purpose of that control phase? Please, somebody help me with that. Guys, the purpose of the controlling phase.
I mean, you're able to sort of like measure risks and view like pros and cons, and you have a better direction when it comes to planning.
Wouldn't you, Vanessa, compare your actual results with what you planned ahead in the planning phase? You had a plan, no? Now that you are hands-on following that plan, you compare the actuals with what you planned and start comparing deviations against that plan, no? That's the control phase. That's why a master budget, or which is the main tool for planning, has a control. It's the main source of control for organizations. And that's why you need a personal budget for your financial health. Otherwise, you wouldn't know how much you are spending in groceries, and you wouldn't have a savings plan and an investment plan. And that's not the proper way to manage your financial wealth. But the controlling phase is, now that I have everything planned, let's compare what I'm actually doing with that plan. That's a way to control. So that's why we create performance reports. We will see along the course a very important tool in organizations, which is the sorry, I always forget it in English. Just give me 1 second. I'm looking at it. Balance scorecard. Sorry. Do you know what it's a balance scorecard?
No, teacher.
Okay. Imagine you are the director, the CEO of your companies, the managing director, the head of everything. So how would you know in a company which has 10,000 employees and 50 directors that your directors are taking the right decisions? How would you know? So the balance scorecard is a strategic tool in order to see that everyone is aligned and to define the KPIs, which are the key performance indicators for each segment of the company. It's an important definition: balance scorecard, KPIs, key performance indicators, which are the key indicators for your companies. Like, I don't know, for example, ViajaClick, it's an e-commerce for travel, for the travel industry. One of my key performance indicators is how many visits I received in my webpage. Do you agree? I could be selling marketing stuff if I have a lot of visits to my webpage. So it is an important indicator. Well, and the balance scorecard is that tool in order to see that everyone in the organization is aligned towards what the shareholders and stakeholders want from that company. And how you will be measured as a director. So at the end, the goal of all these phases is the decision making, that you support your decisions science-based and data-based. You need data to support your decisions. I'm not telling you 100% of your decisions will be done that way, but you aim towards that 100%. Not even Google has achieved that, but if you see, there's a lot of content that in all their areas they are data driven. So well, in here we have some good examples on each department or segment of the companies from each phase. Like in the planning phase, the marketing department should be questioning themselves, like how much should be budget for the TV, for the print and the internet advertising, and how many salespeople should we plan to hire to serve a new territory? Those are planning questions. So in the supply chain management, how many units should we plan to produce next period? How much should we budget for next period's utility expense? The human resource, how much should we plan to spend to occupational safety training? Oh, because they have the training as a fundamental aspect in the HR. How much should we plan to spend on employee recruitment, advertising? So those are the kind of questions that we should ask before being hands-on the activity. So in the controlling phase, we have good examples that from marketing, is the budget price cut increasing the unit sales as expected? Are we accumulating too much inventory during the holiday shopping season? Well, these are the type of questions. Should we sell in the decision-making phase? Should we sell our services as one bundle or sell them separately? Does that make sense to you? That's a decision-making question. Should we sell directly to customers or use a distributor or to be B2C or B2B? How will you support that with data?
I think yes.
Another interesting topic, guys, that obviously we have to consider in here is business ethics. Business ethics is the lubricant that keeps the economy running. Imagine if there wouldn't be business ethics, nobody could be trusted. Definitely that would increase the prices because it's more risk. So business ethics, guys, it's a very important and relevant aspect because at the end, you don't have guidelines to create managerial accounting reports. So imagine if there's a manager that, how do you say, puts a little bit of makeup in those reports. Obviously, there is a very important ethic component, and that the business be conducted within an ethical framework. Okay. Strategic management, which is what I told you. It's one of my specializations. I love strategy. I think it's super important. This won't be an accounting class, believe me. I want you to be strategic managers to understand your numbers, obviously, how you can plan ahead with those numbers, but at the end, everything, it's translated to strategic management. So you can be the best doing your reports and the financial statements, but the strategy is what drives the company. This is the game plan and the plan to control and decide according to your vision and business model. So what's the purpose of a strategic management? to create sustainable competitive advantages. What does it mean? Who can help me with that definition? What is a sustainable competitive advantage? Go ahead, go ahead.
I think that you have like a vision for things in the present and the future, like being aware of some situations you can avoid or can like prevent if you do sustained work, I think.
More than planning, which is obviously that sustainable competitive advantage, it's created in the planning phase. I totally agree with that. But a way to define it, and you have an example in there, it's Cirque du Soleil. What do you think that it's the competitive advantage of Cirque du Soleil? Nobody?
I guess the fact that they employ people instead of, I don't know, using animals, which is illegal in a lot of countries already, and the level of professionalism that they handle their shows with.
Who is the main competitor of Cirque du Soleil? It's very, very difficult to answer that question because Cirque du Soleil doesn't have a direct competitor that can compete with them at those levels. There's one in Asia right now that it's getting a lot of strength, but currently not in the levels of Cirque du Soleil.
Sure, I was gonna say that we have like, for example, in Mexico, I don't know how many we have, but I only know about the one here in Riviera Maya. But I was thinking like in the US, there's like a little bit more than 5 maybe. But like in here, I don't like, I cannot think of like a competitor, honestly.
And the key thing of a competitive advantage is that what differentiates the company from the others. It is a sustainable competitive advantage because that means that the competition is not able to replicate the model that you are using. That is why it's sustainable. You could have put a competitive advantage. Let's see an example. Maybe I'm the largest travel firm in Mexico, so I'm able to contract better prices from my suppliers because I have a huge volume of operation. But is that sustainable? Is that a sustainable competitive advantage? What if the biggest competitor from Europe comes and enters to that market? Maybe he's gonna be able to request the same price as myself. So it's not a sustainable competitive advantage. It's just a competitive advantage. What makes it sustainable is that you have a lot of cases regarding that thing. The most common used one is the Starbucks. What is the sustainable competitive advantage of Starbucks? Why nobody has been able to replicate what Starbucks is doing?
They not only sell coffee, but they sell more like an experience as well. So the experience that they sell is unique for them, and that's why Starbucks is very popular all around the world.
And it's not only that, obviously that's what the customer is able to see. No, the experience starts since you arrive to the coffee shop, where the smell is not only from the coffee that they are making. They have coffee essence along the shops. I don't know if you knew that. Having comfortable places where you can work and where you can be chatting up with your friends, it's part of the experience. What they wanted to create, it's like a home being in your home at your home experience. That's why it smells like coffee. That's why everybody greets you with your name, and it's very happy to receive you in the the experience starts in there. But on the back end, what you don't see is that imagine that you have the biggest distribution channels because they have 1,000 stores along United States, and you are able to have distribution how do you say this, distribution centers, and they are the ones that contract the best coffee retailers, so you get the best prices with the best coffee, and they distribute to all the stores. Besides investing in just, I want to open my coffee shop, go to a retailer with that little volume of production. What price will you get compared to a Starbucks? So those are the things that we have to plan ahead. We need to have a strategic focus. This is the most important aspect of the planning phase. So risk management. Okay, yeah, we are super good, super strategic with the planning. Obviously, we will have to start assessing the risk of the business. A very easy risk, the currency exchange price. Is that a risk? Imagine that you have a business in Mexico, but all your customers are in the United States. Do you think that you will have a risk in there? What's the risk?
Sometimes the exchange rates are very like sensitive to political things or inflation, or you could end up losing money.
Inflation is a government risk. We all have government risk by doing business in Mexico. What if the government, how do you say, like, grabs the business for government purposes? That's a risk. That could be possible. See Venezuela. Take a look at that. So exchange risks. I was showing the previous class. I'm doing. I'm helping with a procedure for an airline. I won't tell you which airline, but but the airline industry is one of the riskier. Even it's a very common MBA case study to show this risk management thing, and that the airlines are one of the worst businesses in the whole world because they earn very few and they have tons of risk. Let's see which of those. You have currency exchange risk. You have petroleum price risk because the turbocene or the gasoline for the aircrafts are attached to the petroleum prices. You have the sorry, I don't know what's the name in English. It's sindicatos.
Labor union.
Labor unions. Nice. Thank you, Jope. Labor union risk because you have all your employees in labor unions. Do you see my point? You have tons of risk on everything that you do in there. So everything, all of those elements affect the results of the company. And obviously, some of those risks you are not able to control. The important part of risk management is to control what you can, or try to be preventive. An example, there are financial instruments to diminish the currency exchange rate. You have derivatives, for example. You have commodities or the petroleum prices. So if you, yes, Jope?
Is that in the airline industry with the petrol and the fuel called fuel hedging?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
That actually you told us the strategy name. It's hedging.
Fuel hedging, yes.
Hedging your position in order to decrease the risk. You're not able to eliminate the risk, but you can decrease it, and that's the purpose of doing planning and having a preventive approach. So the risk management, obviously, the process is identifying the risk, analyzing it, taking actions, monitor it, and control it. Corporate social responsibility. This is the Jana topic. So corporate social responsibility, I told you guys, right now, it is a matter of having competitive advantages. There's even an index in the stock market for companies that are leaders in this topic. Right now, investors are looking more and more for companies that are leaders in the CSR aspects. And it doesn't mean that the corporate social responsibility, it's taking care of the environment. Actually, you have there are four areas, which is obviously the environment, but the labor, the government, the business government, because at the end, what you're trying to see is to see your impact with all the stakeholders. What's the difference between a shareholder and a stakeholder?
Shareholder is someone who has shares in the company.
And a
And a
stakeholder?
stakeholder is someone who is affected by the company's actions.
That's it. That's it. Perfect. So stakeholders are customers, suppliers, employees, the government, other business entities, the banks, So the CSR is trying to collect all of these perspectives in order so the company has a look on everyone. It doesn't mean just the environment or something like that, because there's a lot of misconfusion regarding that. In here you have a materiality matrix, which is provided and you have obviously companies that have included these type of strategies have some guidelines in order to report to investors this type of strategies. And this is one from a CSR report of the company Ford, which you can see in here that in the Y axis, you have influence of what they are doing on their stakeholders, and the impact on Ford on the X axis. And you can see that the number one strategy, it's to electrify and find alternative sources of fuel. It makes sense, no? They are taking care, obviously, they are taking care more the environment perspective in that one, but it doesn't mean that it just only affects the environment. It affects the business strategy, it affects the customers. Okay, that's the importance of knowing CSR from a business perspective, perspective. And we will see some of those strategies once we do our planning phase. So process management, this just only answers on the matter of how everything in the business is related. Obviously, if you want to create a new product in your business, you will have to communicate with the marketing department in order to, are we gonna be able to sell it? Is there is the demand large enough to sell it and to be profitable? You will have to communicate with the production lines to see if you can create the product, if you have the operational capacity to create it. So the importance of the process management is to have an holistic approach of the whole business areas, because at the end you're not gonna be like a specialized in all the areas. You're not gonna be the specialist in the marketing and in the operations. But that doesn't mean, like myself, like as a CFO, that I don't have an holistic approach of everything. I know a little bit about marketing. I know a little bit of process management. The same with you guys. And leadership, the leadership aspects. So tell me, which or what is the best leadership style that we have, that you should have? Who can answer that?
There is no one way of best leadership. It depends on the people in the company and the vision of everything.
Trick question. Very good, Jope. Exactly. It's like, what is the best way to administrate a company? It's the same. It's the same. There are no proven methods regarding leadership and administration. Otherwise, we would teach everybody the same way. So the important part is that you to develop your leadership skills in order to be a better leader. Like, I don't know what are the qualities of good leaders. How do you see yourselves as leaders? Who can help us with that? What do you understand as a leader?
It can be someone that has like the patience to work in with other people, because for example me, I like to work by myself, and that is something like I would rather work alone than work as like teamwork. So I think, and like, so you need to have the patience to deal with people, different personalities, different perspectives. I think that's like a main thing that a leader should have.
Excellent, Perla. I totally agree with you. Anybody else's? Daniel, do you want to say something?
Yes, I believe that if you want to be a leader, either in a company or a group, you have like to be the image for the people, like saying, I want to do this and we are going to do this. But also, if someone doesn't understand, you have to be like, be supportive with that people, that maybe sometimes we can deal with some people because we're not equal. And I believe that if you keep saying that I don't like this dude or this guy, I don't know, I don't like that, and if you keep saying that, you will not get to work with these people. So I believe you have to be like more so like not so thoughtful, just be a leader and work for the people and for the company you are, or the teamwork, for the goal, I mean.
I agree with you, but is that like a law? Is that a guideline? Is that something that everybody agrees with?
there is if you're a leader and you have a certain responsibility and you're a role model and you're the face of the company and you take most of all final decisions. So yeah, you have to be like a role model and be aware of the consequences of that you have when you're on your decision making.
I agree. Not everybody, I've seen some people that doesn't fit that model, but at the end, it's a matter of, we have to take into consideration the leadership aspect, obviously. Imagine that in order to create a budget, as we will do, and as your companies will do, and maybe as you will do, you will have to manage people. Hey, send me this information. Hey, pass me this, and let's interact. Let's debate, because why would I give you that amount of cash for you, your projects? So one of the hardest things, guys, I've encountered, at least that's personal opinion, is that one of the hardest parts is to work with people, because imagine maybe 1 or 2 employees are okay to manage, but imagine that you are in a position of being a manager or a director where you have to manage 10, 20, 30 people, 100. What style of leadership is the correct one? Do you see any psychological aspects in there, communication aspects? Those are the things that we have to start considering towards creating your leadership role. So that's it, guys. That's it for today. Please, thank you very much for your time. Remember, I will upload these sessions. You will have them available. And please don't forget to watch the recordings. You watch the content, the course content. Okay? So we can start like doing the exercises, the valuable lessons. So thank you very much, guys. Are we good to go? Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
So see you on Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Okay, teacher.
Thank you very much, guys. See you on Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Gracias, Enrique.
Gracias, Jopi.